Okay, are we good? Can everybody see the screen?
Yep.
Thank you. Alrighty, so welcome to the Awards and Notebook Workshop. As always, we'll be recording this lesson so that you guys can reference it later. Yes. So as far as presenters go, I'm Ryssa.
Hi, I'm Melissa. You can call me Allie.
I'm Antonio.
And I'm Dani.
So for today's agenda, we're going to be going over the awards because the notebook is an integral part for a lot of the awards, a majority of them. And then also just general notebook guidelines for pre-COVID. So just in case FIRST does decide to revert back to how they usually do notebook after COVID, you guys can already have like some background knowledge on it, as well as notebook changes that are happening due to remote competition. And so with that, I will hand off awards to Allie and Dani.
Okay, so there are some awards that require a notebook and some that don't. The ones that do, there's the Inspire Award that is given to the team that best embodies the challenge. The Connect Award, which is given to the team that frequently does outreach and connects with their community. Outreach is basically connecting with our community through STEM-related events. The Think Award is given to the team that best reflects their journey through their engineering notebook. The Collins Aerospace Innovate Award is given to the team that thinks outside the box when completing the game. The Design Award recognizes design elements of the robot that are both functional and aesthetic. The Motivate Award is given to the team that displays gracious professionalism. Gracious professionalism emphasizes the value of respect for individuals and the community. The Control Award celebrates a team that uses sensors and software to increase the robot's performance.
Okay, so the awards that don't require a notebook are the Promote Award, which is basically a video answering the question that FIRST gives every year. Last year was, how has FIRST changed you? This year, I'm not sure if we know the question or not, but yeah. The Compass Award is an optional award. It is a video that recognizes one of your mentors, one of the team's mentors, and how they support and guide you through the year. The Judges Award is also optional. It is given, it is given to one of the most memorable teams. So you can have like a memorable color, memorable shirt, memorable hat. The Winning Alliance Award is given to the winner of the season. Yeah, I guess that's how you put it. And the Finalist Alliance Award is given to the runner-up.
So just like a little additional background on alliances, essentially for the competitions that determine like ranking in terms of like who progresses on, there's like an alliance system at the end where essentially the top 4 ranked teams select 2 additional teams, and so collectively those 3 teams together create an alliance, and then those 4 alliances compete against each other for the overall top, I guess, position for robot performance. So yeah, great.
Real quick, I put in chat the Promote Award stuff if anyone else wanted to read that. Basically, it's why does FTC work, something along those lines, and it could be found in Game Manual 1.
So next section is the general notebook requirements. Disclaimer that, like I said earlier, these are just the general requirements for previous years, and not all of them may apply to this year because of the changes they made to accommodate COVID.
Okay, so what is an engineering notebook? It's basically a living document designed to document everything from your team's journey throughout the season, as well as the engineering design process. It includes the team engineering outreach, team plan. Team and outreach could be combined. It should be detailed enough for another person to look at your notebook and be able to build your robot from it. And it should be organized enough that someone unrelated could rebuild your robot. Okay. So basically document everything, especially failures. It'll help you in the future.
I do just want to like emphasize documenting everything, like literally.
Oh. So your builders are working on a new shooter prototype, document it. Your programmers are creating a new autonomous path, document it. Your team just finished up an outreach event, document it. A teammate goes missing, document it. Hotel, I don't know what this is. Ryssa, how do you?
Trivago.
Trivago. The document grind never stops. The judges want to see your progress. They'd much prefer you have misspellings, worn edges, wrinkled pages, accidental stains than some pristine, perfect notebook. Nobody is perfect, and your notebook should reflect that. You make mistakes and learn from it. So there are two engineering notebook formats. There's the electronic, which everyone can work on it simultaneously. They must be printed out before competition and must be compiled to three ring binders. And there's also handwritten. Only one person can write in it at a time. Already it's a physical notebook, and it can be spiral bound, laboratory, or documentation notebooks, as well as a loose leaf. Keep in mind both are valid and have their drawbacks. Last year, BSG used Google Docs, but this year we're trying out Google Slides because it's easier to move photos around. Okay.
And then just to add on a bit. Oh.
Go ahead.
Keep in mind you have a maximum of 2 notebooks, and if you're doing the electronic and printing it out, it has to be 3-inch 3-ring binders. You can't go like any larger than that. So yeah.
All right. So some general notebook requirements besides any of that. Your team number has to be on the cover of it. And generally, they do like to see a team picture as well. Something so they could identify your team, especially when you, at least normally, they'd be seeing you out in the field, they could kind of recognize you. Robot design process is extremely important. Like they were talking about documenting everything, they want to see how you got to where your robot is, and they need to be able, like they said before, you should be able to recreate an entire robot without knowing any of those people, seeing what they did, just by looking at the notebook. It's really important. A team plan. So this could take a number of forms. You could have a business plan, fundraising, strategy, sustainability, skills development. Whatever you decide, you have to decide what you want to be a part of that. And this should be award based. So if you should be, realistically, we're not going to win every award, but we try and go for them all, right? So it should be award based when you make that decision. Information and team outreach, extremely important, especially for those awards that apply to that. I believe something I'm not remembering right now, but
it's either motivation or like compass.
Motivation. Thank you. So an engineering portfolio, that is a necessity this year. You have to turn that in, and that's a max of 15 pages, like we had talked about previously. You should also be labeling your pictures, showing off what they mean, what they are. It's good to have pictures to kind of visualize things, but if you're not explaining what they are, then you might as well have nothing there.
On top of pictures, CAD pictures are great. Pictures of paths your robot is going to be taking, pictures of the robot as you guys are building it, like document everything, key things.
All right. So one part of your team section should definitely be team bios. It's not necessarily something the judges will look at, but having something to say, this is who we are, this is our team individually, each individual member is a good thing generally to have, and those are all the requirements. Your name, they specify this too actually. Only your first name and not your last name for privacy reasons, especially if the notebook gets shared afterwards. You could look on First's website and they have a lot of examples of previous teams' notebooks, and you wouldn't want someone's first and last name there and then whatever the situation, just first name. Your grade, position on team, a picture of the team member, they can know what you look like, a little bit about the team member, what you do outside of it, and then what you want to do in the future. So the team plan itself, like we talked about, there's lots of different kinds: fundraising, business, strategic, sustainability. What you should also have under your team plan, your kind of that area, that section, is your goals, your timeline, kind of at the beginning what your plan for the season is, and then at the end how everything went according to plan. But for those steps in between, you should definitely have, this is our plan, this is our goal we want to accomplish, this is each step we want to take to be able to get there. Outreach and team finances is definitely a really good thing to see. And then future goals for the team. This could be stuff like, not even for this year, for after this year, once some people are graduated, how is the team gonna continue? All right, and then the engineering section. So this is kind of where a lot of that robot stuff is gonna be, your original sketches and drawings of your design process. All your CAD and all these little detailed drawings of the robot, of each part, whatever the case is, definitely of custom parts. If you're 3D printing a part, definitely get the CAD pictures for that, because that's something that is going to stand out a little more than a C channel that most people are using. Your old versus your new strategy at the very beginning, how your strategy was and how you adapted it once you made the robot and everything. Every redesign. Definitely all your mistakes. We can't emphasize it enough. Everything. You document everything on there. Everything that gets done, everything you mess up, all of it. And then the underlying science and mathematics of your design and your strategy. If you have a great example, if you have a gear ratio on something, your motor is attached to a gear, and then on another axle you have another gear. What is that doing? Is it just a chain of some kind? Is it built for torque? Is it for speed? Explain that. And then there's the outreach section. So this is stuff like number one, team spirit stuff, all your team swag, which is we have all our shirts and sweaters. Some teams, BSG has the makeup, PR and Gear Gurus, we have our hats. Stuff that's going to make your team stand out. Once again, normally in the pit area where everyone's working on the robot. It's a little different this year. Outreach and fundraising stuff can go here. Events in the nearby community, how you're connecting with everyone. If you're teaching something to kids, getting them into STEM, that's really great. Definitely keeping it inclusive. The STEM community in general, if you go outreach to some big company that's into something technology-wise that we could potentially get some help from, that would be really good. And then just general community connections, volunteering and stuff, but that's separate from outreach. All right. That's all I had.
So I just want to emphasize quality over quantity. I can vouch for last year. It was like I think before regionals, we hadn't been keeping up with the notebook, and so we ended up yeeting a large majority of everything after interleagues on our notebook. And so I just want to clarify that the
Or the
judges,
morning of ILT.
look, Antonio, it's fine. I want to clarify that the judges can tell when you've yeeted most of the notebook at like the last minute the night before. They can tell. The notebook should be a living document, and you should be constantly adding to it over time so that you guys don't have to worry about trying to write up everything that needs to get written up the night before the competition. And then also keep in mind that judges do have a limited time to look through your notebook. So the more fluff that you guys try to like yeet in just for the sake of looking like you put in a lot of effort into it, the more time, like the more information they have to try to absorb in that limited amount of time. So there definitely is like a balance between how much you're putting in and how much, or I guess like how much content you're putting in versus how much pages there are, I guess, you know.
Versus how much filler there is.
Yeah, thank you. So the daily logs are a part of the notebook. They generally are organized under the engineering section, but some teams do like to have, have a completely separate section within their notebook solely for their daily logs. So usually the main things, at least in my opinion, that you should record are the date, definitely attendance, how many teammates are there, who's there, who isn't there, the time that you guys spent working, and then usually the two, I guess, or three main things that you should record are tasks, reflection, and goals for the next day. So tasks is essentially anything that your team gets done that day. Did build, finish prototyping something? Did programming make a new class to perform a new path? I don't know, like anything like that. And then for the reflection, make sure that they are meaningful. Talk about what went wrong, how you guys approached fixing it, what worked, what didn't work, what changes you made to the robot, any information you guys collected when you were doing research to decide on a certain prototype you wanted to try out, like any preliminary research, as well as just your team's entire thought process that you went through to get to your robot. And then final notes, make sure, or at least for final notes for like the general notebook formatting, make sure you document everything, including failures. Don't stop using your notebook once your robot is complete. Even after your robot is complete, make sure you're still doing your daily logs and keeping track of everything. And keep in mind, the notebook doesn't have to be perfect. Like I think Dani mentioned before, the judges don't mind if there are misspellings or like random stains, as long as like it looks like you guys were constantly adding to the notebook and keeping track of everything that you've been doing throughout the whole engineering design process. And then these are some helpful resources. So like Antonio mentioned before, FIRST does provide you with some example FTC notebooks. So that first link will take you to this webpage here. So as you can see, what's really nice is they have a list of the guidelines as well as a self-assessment document that you guys can use and reference. And essentially it shows you, oh, here's some of the stuff that you guys need, and you can check, does my notebook include that? And then also here are some examples over here, like Antonio mentioned, of some engineering notebooks from some teams. I did want to take a look-see at this one here. So this one is from team 4250. So cover page, wow, team bios. So here's their outreach section. Notice how like they hosted a kickoff for FLL and whatnot. So here's their business plan. So notice how there's a team summary and like Antonio mentioned, wow, team pictures and whatnot. So Antonio mentioned a strategic planning document of sorts. So most teams just do what's called a SWOT analysis, which stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And essentially, all it's showing is by recognizing what your strengths are and what your weaknesses are and like the potential opportunities and threats there are to your team, by acknowledging them before the start of the season, you guys can plan ahead of time. Well, how do I manage the team throughout the season? Keeping these in mind so that the team can persist and keep growing, you know. So they listed their outreach, which was nice. Team budget, this is also a part of that financial aspect of the business section. You don't necessarily have to include everything in those like 4 key sections that Antonio mentioned for the team section. You only need 1, but it is nice to have more. And then you can see these are their daily logs. So here they have their tasks, their reflections, pictures, captions for their pictures. And then also additional note, if you notice how they have like this picture here. So essentially in the engineering notebook, any empty space has to be crossed out. It's just like a formality so that it's like a clarification that yes, we didn't intend for any information to be in this blank empty space. So this was how they personally approached crossing out that empty space for their engineering notebook, but you could just put like a giant X or something along those lines. But yeah, so notice how like they're documenting everything. Here's their analysis of what their plan is for auto, tele, endgame. So yeah, and then the second link takes you to this website here. So Ponytail Posse, I believe that they've retired, but they posted all of their resources that they created for teams to reference. So for their business plan, this is from 2017 to 2018. Notice how they have like a summary page. The season goals that they have, examples of outreach, a season budget, sponsorship info. Though for us in particular, we may not be able to create tiers for sponsorships just because of the nature of being a club and like trying to accommodate all teams when we get sponsorship opportunities, but meh. And then I did want to gush about their engineering notebook a bit because I'm an engineering notebook nerd, but so the summary page is really cute. So like keep in mind, you guys can get super creative with the engineering portfolio, and like visual stuff like this is both aesthetically appealing, but it still gets your point. Look here, Tyler. it still gets your point across. Notice how they have a table of contents. What BSG started doing after being inspired by this particular team is we've started organizing our sections in our notebooks by letter like they do. So notice how for the team section, everything is labeled under A, and then for the engineering section, everything for their page numbers is part of section B. And then they further subdivided it by mechanism for the robots. And notice how like the drivetrain subsystem is like under B2 versus the general robot being under B1, which is really nice. For their team section, their team bios are really cute. So like I mentioned before, feel free to like get a little quirky with your notebook, because the judges do appreciate it. They enjoy being able to get a feel for your team just from looking through the notebook. So like what I really like about their team bios in particular is that they have like favorite conversations with their teammates, as well as, since they're the ponytail posse, they have a ponytail description. So that was really cute. For the engineering section, one of the things I really liked is that they color code what phase of the engineering section their tasks are under, so that the judges can like clearly see, oh, for this notebook log, they were working on strategy versus for this one where they were working on implementation, particularly with the electronics. And then if you notice, for them, they labeled their photos through figures. So like they have figure 33.1, which corresponds to session number 33, and then this is the first figure. So that is another way that you guys could approach labeling photos for your notebooks, because sometimes it's a little bit easier than having to write captions for every single thing, when the caption could just be in your description and then you reference to the photo. And then if you notice here, they did do a lot of like experimentation before actually like going about with a certain plan. So you can actually like see, here's the research that they did before deciding on doing, in this case, where to put their electronics to avoid static discharge. And then also, this is like really snazzy. For 3D printing, they showed that they wanted to approach using annealing to prevent their 3D printed parts from being brittle. And so like, it is a lot to take in, but I highly suggest that you guys like take some time to like look through this notebook and just, like see how they personally approached it and gain inspiration from it. For the programming section, you'll notice that although they did paste screenshots of code, they still put descriptions of what the code is doing. So from other workshops that I've went to, I've heard that like some judges don't really like it when teams just yeet like entire screenshots of their code into their notebook, because A, it makes it more, I guess, exposed for them to criticize it, but also B, it's not necessarily a good means of showing that you understand what the code is doing. So it's ideal if you do include screenshots of code to still explain what the code is doing. So yeah, see, clearly labeled, explaining the process the robot is going through in their autonomous, with diagrams. Diagrams are always great. And then that's the business plan. So yeah, that's my rant. Okay, thanks. One more side note, First Online, it is a organization, I think it was created by Almond Robotics, another FTC team, but essentially over, I think like since the start of quarantine, they started organizing a bunch of workshops for other FTC teams to like host and share. So this particular link over here takes you to an engineering notebook presentation by Mechanical Paradox. So yeah, this is also a great video. It's an hour long, but they do provide a lot of useful information. So yeah. In terms of what's different this season, I will hand it over to Allie and Dani.
Okay, yeah, so it's a lot that's changing this season. For one, the engineering notebook is being condensed down into an engineering portfolio, which is basically just a summary of the engineering notebook. Emphasis on summary. Oh my gosh, I cannot speak. Sorry. Emphasis on summary. You don't want to put everything that you would normally put in the engineering notebook into your engineering portfolio because it is only 15 pages that you are allowed to give to the judges. It should include sketches, everything normally that would be in an engineering notebook, but just condensed down really. So like team members' thoughts, team meetings, process, obstacles, goals. It's like a team's resume. So the notebook requirements, but COVID edition. The total number of pages, like I said, is 15. The submission form is not part of the engineering portfolio. Doesn't count in the page total, which, Ryssa, could you help me explain that after, please? Yeah.
Which part?
The submission form.
Oh,
Yeah.
Do you mean for the control award?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay. All right, I'll explain after.
Okay. And like the engineering notebook, the team number has to be at the top of the front page. And yeah. Hold on, sorry. Okay, so we recommend that the team number should be placed at the top of each page in the portfolio. The engineering portfolio needs to include the summary of the engineering content and the robot design process. It needs a summary of the team information, outreach, team description, and it needs to have a summary of the plan, the team plan, and about the team overall, business, fundraising, all that. And yeah, so are there any questions?
I'll just like quickly brief over the control award. So the control award is essentially the software award. So there's like a separate sheet that you have to fill out, and so because of that, like all they were saying is that that extra sheet to submit for the control award for when you're applying for it isn't included in that 15-page limit you guys have.